Okay, in this video what I'd like to show you is how I'm going to move my electrical outlet from my car over to another location. Right now where it was initially put in, it drapes across the garage when I'm walking into the car. So if I'm not actually unplugging it, I have to step over it, which I feel like is a little bit of an issue. And I also I want to be able to hang the cord down to the car so it's not sitting on the ground. The other thing I want to solve here is that this outlet is for this plug that I have is actually installed the opposite way. I'd prefer this to drop down so I don't have to hang it on this makeshift thing. Now I've just had my car for a very short amount of time, so luckily this has just been very temporary. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move the outlet, and you can kind of follow along with that 3/4 inch conduit that runs down, and I'm going to move it over to here at the same height. So I'm just going to cut the conduit up here, and I'm going to drop that outlet right down to here. I'm going to shut down the power to the outlet. I can verify that because the plug-in is no longer lit up on there. You might want to get a voltage tester to test that. The next step is to remove the cover here. Then I put the screws back in here so I don't lose them. Then I'm going to disconnect the wires here. So there are 4 wires in the back of this, a white, a red, a black, and a green. I just went ahead and disconnected those. And as you can see on the back here, there are 2 brass screws. Those are for the hots, the green is for the ground, and the silver one is for the neutral. Once they're disconnected, I'm going to go ahead and straighten the wires out so they're easier to pull through the conduit. Once the power was shut off, I went ahead and took the front of the cover off so I can pull the wires through. As you can see here, we have a double breaker, and the wire then goes up through the 3/4 inch conduit, and I need to pull that back far enough so that when I go to cut the 3/4 inch conduit, I will have enough to pull back through there. Again, I always recommend you kill the power going to the load center before you do this. Once the wire was pulled through, I went ahead and disconnected the box and the supports holding up the 3-inch conduit. This is pretty simple. Phillips head bit, removed it, set it aside because I am going to use it again. I went ahead and took all the supports down so when I was ready I could pull that back. Then I bring up the 90-degree bend that's attached to the box so I can get this positioned, and I mark the conduit with a pencil so I know where to cut it. Alright, now that I have it marked off where I'm going to cut it, I'm going to come here, I'm going to cut this down, put my safety glasses on because I hate metal getting in my eyes. Get on my reaming tool. Once I was ready, I went ahead and cut the mark on the one that was permanently installed so I could disconnect it at a coupler. Once I got actually that cut through, then I want to bring up my reamer and ream this out. This is where this tool is really awesome. I will put a link to this in the description. I find this to be a really useful universal tool, especially when I'm dealing with high power and boxes. I think it's pretty cool to use. After that, I unscrew the coupler so I can pull this small piece out, and I had to do it this way so I could actually push it back far enough to pull out the small piece. And as you can see, I didn't pull the wire back far enough, so I just pull out the extra and then recycle it. Once that's cut and ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and put a coupler on there and connect the 2 pieces. Now I'm only going to tighten one side down for now. I'll come back and tighten the other later. Then to follow code, I went ahead and put a bracket as required. I like to put one pretty close to the bend. Then after that, I needed to put in a support for that other one. So you can see here, I just put in 2 decking screws, put them in, got everything positioned, and then tightened them down. After that, I got the level out so I could go ahead and make sure the box was visually pleasing and put 1 screw in there to hold it into position. So then I can come in and put my bracket in the one top, so I got that locked in. Then I'm going to put 1 more piece of backing right behind the box so I can add in 3 screws, because this is where all the tension is going to be if I need to unplug the charging cord. Once all the wood was securely attached, I went ahead and added in the needed screws to keep the bracket and the box properly mounted. Once I'm ready to start to push the wire through, I take all of the wires and I go ahead and lay them out, basically stacking them, and then I tape them up so when I go to push them through, they're more of an arrow than a blunt object. Then I start shoving the wire through until it pokes out of the other end, and then I pulled the wire down because that always makes it a little bit easier, doing my best to not let it get bound up. Then after that, I'm going to go ahead and measure out from the back of the box 6 inches to follow code, so then I can know what distance to cut my wire down to. Then how I strip thick wire is just with the utility knife. I score it all the way around 360 degrees, and then I just swipe down with the knife. And when that happens, it's pretty easy then, once you get it all the way through, just use your fingernails and peel it off. I'll do this for all 4 of them. Anytime it's over maybe 8 gauge or more, this is how I strip wire. For the ground wire, I went ahead and just got my normal strippers out, at least my backup pair of strippers since my other ones broke, and I stripped down the ground wire since it's a lesser gauge. After that, I went ahead and trimmed down the wire a little bit to make sure I had very little access poking out when I put them back into the screw. You want to make sure you don't pinch the insulation, but you also want to make sure that when you're tightening these down, there's the least amount of copper showing. So you need to try to find that balance here. So what I'm going to do is tighten all of these back. The red goes to a brass screw, the black goes to a brass screw, the white goes to the silver or aluminum looking color, and the green goes to the green color. Alright, once it's wired in, I'm going to remove the 2 screws that I put in the box, and then I'm going to attach the cover to the box itself. With wire gauge this thick, you have to put a little oomph behind this, and it always helps to put a little bend in the wire that when you go to push this back, it has somewhere safe to go. Another really important point is if you're going to do this, you need to use a box with a lot of depth. The more depth you have on an electrical box, when you're using thick gauge wire like this, the easier it is to actually put the outlet back in. Once the outlet is back in there and secured with the 2 screws, then it's time to plug in the charging cord, turn the breaker on, and make sure everything is powered up correctly. This is just an informational video on how to move an EV outlet in your garage. As always, I hope you found this video informative, and if you did, please hit the like and subscribe. Thank you very much.